All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope you had a great long weekend. We're going to pick up from where we left off last week, and that's going to be talking about the triumvirate or the Triple Alliance and how it disintegrated into Julius Caesar eventually taking control of Rome. Now, when we finished last week, we had a couple of slides that we decided to not get to, and then I told you we would do those on Tuesday. So here's what's going to happen. We've got two slides that have quite a bit of words in them, but we should get through them rather quick. Then I want to spend a little bit more time than usual talking about your assignment for tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to have a Socratic seminar based off of the life of Julius Caesar and what we think of him as a person. Okay, so we'll get to that. That'll be probably a good 2 minutes or so just explaining that, because you're going to have that exit ticket, that Socratic pre-sheet done before you come to class tomorrow to help you participate in the Socratic seminar. Okay, but let's forget about that for right now. Let's present our screen. Now, if you are coming into this video and you haven't already done so, in the Edpuzzle tab, there will be these two slides for you to fill in if you don't get them on paper. Okay, you got any questions about that and you can't find it, stop this video right now and let me know and I'll help you. Okay. So where we left off last time is here, right? Julius Caesar, he ends up, after becoming consul, he leaves Rome, which is like right here on this map, and he goes up into Gaul, what we know today as France. And this starts the Gallic Wars. Now, Caesar doesn't get all of modern day France, but he gets darn near close to it. In fact, he basically is never defeated except in one particular excursion, and it's right up here to the north. He tries to get Britain, one of the hardest places to take in world history, and it isn't successful. But other than that, he is very, very successful. And as we've talked about, if there's one way to gain fame in Rome, it's winning military victories, right? The Gauls had not been friends of Romans for a very, very long time. This goes all the way back to the Second Punic War with Hannibal, right? So for them to be brought under control made the Roman people very happy. Now, this is where your notes are going to start, okay? Now, we know this. Before Caesar became consul, the triumvirate was formed. Caesar, though he was a very, very charismatic person, he didn't have the connections with the rich and wealthy like Crassus and Pompey had. So he needed them in order to get elected. Now, once he gets elected, that's when he goes out to Gaul, right? We can see the years in his conquests up here. So he leaves because you're only consul for 1 year, right? And when he's gone, Pompey and Crassus are going to be the ones that are left to do the governing while he's taking over Gaul. Now, Crassus, he's the one that feels left out amongst the three. He's not nearly as popular as either Pompey or Caesar. And even though he put down the Spartacus revolt, he wasn't given credit for it. So he decides, what I need to do is I need to make a name for myself doing something completely on my own so that people will give me a break and people will see that I'm just as great as these other two. And he heads out into what we know today as Syria. Now, if you can see this, Syria is out in this area here, right in here. It goes terribly. He rides out. He thinks it's going to be easy. It'll give him that status that he wants. He's captured very quickly. In fact, a lot of people think that Pompey might have had something to do with him having people pulled from battle so that he wasn't able to be successful. But regardless, he is killed, and he's killed in one of the worst ways I could think of. The people in Syria knew that he was one of the richest men in Rome, so they melted gold and then they poured that molten gold down his throat. Okay, if you heat up metal enough to turn it into a liquid, as you can see with this iron worker here, very, very hot temperature. Okay, horrible way to die, but they're showing a symbol that just because you're rich doesn't mean that you're going to be successful out here in Syria. So now there are only two left, Pompey and Caesar. Now, Caesar's going to finish up in Gaul in 52 BCE, which is going to be 7 years after he leaves. And Pompey realizes there's a problem. Caesar is now at the height of popularity. He's fresh off of a victory, and Pompey's sitting in Rome. If Caesar decides to make a move on him, he's worried that he might be successful. So because he's in Rome, Pompey says, hey, look, Senate, Caesar's scary. He's headed this way, and I think he might try to take over control, just like Sulla did way back when. So we need to declare him a public enemy and try and get him out of there. Worst mistake Pompey could have ever made, because now Caesar knows, hey, if I'm going to head back, I'm going to have to bring my army back with me if I want to be elected consul again. He does, and he crosses what's known as the Rubicon River right up here in northern Italy. When he does, that is technically an active war, and the civil war between the two began. So what happened during the Civil War? If you want to take a look here, this is where we would start talking about the story between the two. So Caesar starts up here in Gaul. He's going to march his legions down into Rome to take it, right? Now, Pompey, he's going to get the heck out of Dodge. And in fact, he's going to go to a place that he thinks might be on his side, and that's Egypt, right? Now, Egypt is a former Greek kingdom. In fact, the king, or the pharaoh named Ptolemy, is a descendant of Alexander the Great's generals. He has a sister named Cleopatra that we're going to talk about on Thursday, and they come up with a plan in order to end the Civil War, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So Pompey's now out of Rome. He's in Egypt. Caesar's moving in, but he needs to chase Pompey down and get him. Otherwise, he is not going to be seen as a legitimate person to take over. Now, the Senate themselves did raise an army, and Caesar beat them relatively quick. Now, when Pompey was in Egypt, he thought that he would get the support of Ptolemy and Cleopatra, his sister wife. I know that sounds weird, but remember, that was a plan that the pharaohs did in order to keep the family line going. A little bit weird in our culture, though. I understand that. Now, Pompey's stabbed to death by Ptolemy, the pharaoh of Egypt, because he thinks what he can do is, if he gets rid of Pompey, then Caesar will be grateful to him. And hopefully when Caesar wins, then Rome and Egypt will become great trade partners. Now, it's very interesting because when Caesar went to Egypt, he actually was given Pompey's head literally on a food platter. They pulled the top up and looked, and Pompey's head was in there. Ptolemy thought that Caesar would be very pleased. Just like with Alexander the Great and Darius III, though, he was upset because even though they were enemies, he had had great respect for Pompey. They had been friends at one point. In fact, Julius Caesar even gave him his daughter in marriage to solidify their friendship. So that was a very traumatic event for Julius Caesar. Now, eventually, he's going to hang out in Egypt for a little while after Pompey dies because there's nobody to oppose him. And then he goes back to Rome. And he says, all right, Senate, here's the deal. First of all, you fought against me. I didn't appreciate it. Second of all, plebeians love me. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to name me dictator for life. I'm going to do things that are going to make the people happy. And hopefully, we're going to see that Rome is going to progress. It doesn't work that way. Now, eventually, what ends up happening is on March 15th, 44 BCE, right after Caesar named himself dictator for life, the Ides of March happens. Okay, this is I don't want to call it a holiday, but it's a day that people remember every single year for this event. These are all senators. 60 or so senators raise knives when Caesar's in the senatorial hall, and they stab him 23 times and kill him. It's a very, very famous story, a story that you're going to learn about when you read Julius Caesar with Miss Doyle later on. Now, this is the first time in almost 100 years that a Roman head of state was actually for sure assassinated. Sulla might have been poisoned. We don't know. In Caesar's case, it's pretty obvious that he was killed on purpose. 23 stab wounds will do the trick there. Now, the problem was that when the Senate did this, Caesar was still very popular with those plebeians, those common people. And that's going to be their huge mistake. They think that because Caesar named himself dictator for life and made himself a superbus, that the people would instantly turn on him. Didn't happen. And in fact, what ends up happening is rather than have the Senate take control and the Republic going back to the way it was, now there are going to be people that were connected to Caesar that are going to try to take over from where he left off. The Republic is now done, right? If there was any chance of it being restored, it would have happened right after Caesar's death, and it didn't. So now we're going to see one more great civil war in Rome, which we'll talk about only briefly next week. And that'll bring about the rise of a man named Augustus. And the Roman Republic will cease to be a republic and will be known as somebody with an emperor, a princeps, or first citizen. And we will know it now as the Roman Empire. Sorry, Caesar. This is a really cool picture, though. So on to your assignment. When you go into your exit ticket for today, make sure that you're actually clicking on the document and pulling it up. Now, you'll each get your own copy, and you've got 4 questions to answer, okay? Now, all of these answers need to be done in complete sentences, and these are all opinion-based questions, okay? If you're going to use your notes for examples, I highly recommend that you do. That's excellent. But remember, this is something that you should be able to give your opinion on pretty easily based on everything that we've gone through. And it's all going to be talking about Caesar as a person, as a leader, and then in the end, whether or not he overstepped his power like a superbus, or if he was a misunderstood person who just wanted to help. Okay? Now, if you do this pre-sheet, I promise you, when you have to do a reflection later on for your weekly assessment, we are going to have an essay weekly assessment this week. I promise you, this will be the most important thing that you will have to help you prepare for it. Okay? The question is going to be simple. It's basically going to ask you to give me your opinion on Julius Caesar. That's it. Okay? So can't wait to have that happen, but that'll be on Thursday afternoon. Get this done. Make sure you're writing complete sentences, and we'll see you tomorrow for your Socratic seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful night, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow.